some people appear to be more vulnerable to the mental health effects of cannabis than others, particularly younger people and those with a family history of mental health problems. If we look at cannabis use amongst secondary school students, we find that approximately 1 in 5 students aged between 12 and 17 years have used cannabis at some stage in their life. Adolescence is a period when many developmental changes are occurring in the brain. The adolescent brain is more susceptible to harm than the fully formed adult brain. What we didn't realize until recently is that the brain is still growing well into our 20s. We now know that the earlier a young person begins using cannabis, the more likely they are to experience mental health problems, impaired cognition, poor learning outcomes, and harms relating to memory and recall.
The adolescent brain is a really critical period of neurodevelopment, and adolescence coincides with the peak period of cannabis use and the peak period of development of schizophrenia. So we're interested in seeing what's going on in the brain of adolescents who also use cannabis. Well, we were seeing memory impairment in adolescent users who were only using 3 times a week, a couple of joints per occasion. So they were not seeking treatment, they were not heavily dependent, they weren't even what we would consider to be heavy users. Nevertheless, they showed memory impairment. So we do think the adolescent brain is more vulnerable.
Adolescence is a crucial developmental period. Many changes people make in that age physically and emotionally that can affect their lives for decades to come, and that we really need to be looking at cannabis as a risk behaviour for some people that can cause problems if it's used particularly too early and too frequently.
There's a very significant impact of cannabis on educational attainment. We know from a variety of studies now that smoking cannabis, particularly before the age of 16, triples the risk of leaving school without any formal qualification. And it accounts for 17% of all possible risks that cause people to drop out of high school.